Hello all, welcome to this activity for experiencing a Scratch Meetup. Thank you for taking the time to connect, and hopefully this will help you feel like integrating Scratch in class for any subject, and hopefully join us with our community of practice, which we call a Scratch Meetup. Today we have a bilingual session. You can see there's several of us. We will start with French and then go with English. So whether you're starting out or you're an advanced user, no problem. All are welcome. About 2/3 of the workshop will be exploring Scratch, and then we will talk about Scratch Meetups, which is the community of practice. We believe in interaction. Today, we have a different format, but we'll try to include some interaction. So you'll have time to explore Scratch itself. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll try to answer them. I think there's a couple hundred participants, so we will save the questions for the end and we will take the time to answer your questions. So we have co-hosts from Réci, we have Math, Science and Technology, so Réci MST and Réci for the English-speaking community. You have the line here to the presentation, which will be made public. You are welcome to download it. We have today Sonia Fizet with Christine Truesdale. She's the Director of Pedagogical Services at Learn, representing the Réci, the English part. Then we have Thomas Stenzel, Chris Colley, Caroline Buteau, and Craig Bullitt. So we have a lot of creativity among those minds. So before we dive in with the presentations and the Scratch themes that we picked, I just want to say that if you haven't looked at the reference framework, this would be interesting. We have 12 mentions there. When we program with Scratch, we see that we can touch upon most of the skills that are required in computer science. The aspect that we focus on is thinking, especially with Ms. Romero's research, to see how we can integrate digital tools to promote engaging with youth. And what they've shown is that students use internet a lot, they listen to music, they watch videos. So what we need to do for pedagogy purposes is the same thing, using the tools like Scratch where youth can create, co-create also in teams. And this is really the objective, have great engagement of the creativity of the students. For those who haven't seen Scratch, we're going to go with an overview of the blocks. So for today, don't create an account just yet if you don't have one. We'll allow you to work on this. If we want to record the program, then we do need an account, but you can start off without an account. I'll start by showing you what this does. So as Craig said, we were going to invite you to go to the link, the Scratch website. What I'm going to show you is show you the program. It's a nice way to start off with students. We try to have them tell us what they observe. If they can name what the program does, then it helps understand what are the commands that they need to input into the program. So the one that I will show you here is the BAT program. So we can go full screen here, almost full screen. Most of them start with the flag. So I will have this play. You're not going to have the audio, but let's go. So once we have programs like this one, when we get to Scratch, then we create a new program. Like Craig said, once we are on the Scratch website, we can select the language that we want by selecting this in the menu with the globe icon. So I'm going to click here. There you go. So it's color coded also. I will leave it in French for now. So you see the blocks on the left. At the center is where we'll have our script, and on the right will be the animation. So what we used to see with the bat earlier, no, so I changed the character, now we have a cat. So first, when we start off, we need to pick the sprites or the character. Here, this is the mascot, so we picked this cat. We have this character, and then we go down on the right-hand corner, and we can get various characters from this database. So this will allow us to have a good looking presentation. So now I can pick this bat. We see it now. So we have 2 characters. And if I click on them over here, click the trash icon, then I can remove one of them. So there I have 1 bat. Craig, should you continue? Yes, just continue with the background.
So Sonia's going to work on the background just to let you know which they are. This is a little cat head icon in the bottom right-hand corner with a little plus sign next to it. And your background, again, in the right-hand sound, it's under stage. There's an area code stage. You can see backdrops, and that's where you're going to put your background or your backdrop into your scene.
As you've seen here, so to have character here, you pick with the picture bank. So a lot of variety. It's also possible to draw our own backdrops or our own characters, or import images that you would use personally in your classroom, perhaps. So with creativity, we were mentioning that to be very engaging, it's a nice motivator. Let's start with the first program. So often the students tell me, okay, we hear audio, we have the bat moving around, and we have the backdrop. So we try to use these different blocks. So the blue is the color code for movement. So we can have the bat move one direction. If we're not sure what it is, then we can click on it. So there you go, you saw the bat move sideways. So let's say I pick this. So the bat is moving for 1 second. That's the one that we picked. A good habit is to start with the event block. So these are the yellow ones. They don't have the same shape, as you can see. So we need to make sure that the pieces fit together like a puzzle. So then when I click on the flag, the program executes the command.
Yes, thank you. So the motion blocks, the blue ones with the bat, when you place it into position, there is a program. One of the blue blocks is called glides to rem position. So we did it to place the bat, and then we use event blocks, the yellowish ones, kind of the mustardy color. We are choosing that to launch the program. So actually those ones, yeah, it's to initiate the program to start it.
We also have the habit on the pedagogical standpoint to always have a first sentence to describe what this program is used for. This is a habit of ours. So we have appearance here, and this is just like the speech bubbles in a comic strip. So we can slide this over here, and I could insert it right here if I wanted. See the 2 blocks split up, and then I can insert this here. So I can say hello and tell you that the program is for initiating to computer science coding. So when I click on the flag, then this whole script will be launched. So this allows me to test it out in smaller chunks. I will go ahead with the second block. You see the colors are the same and they're placed in the same locations. So now for audio, we have several over here in pink. If we wanted the audio track, it's not the same thing as the character or the sprite. We need to go over here on the upper left corner, and then we have audio track. Since we already have those, I'll just use one by default here. So this is the audio here.
So hopefully you can follow along visually. So Sonia was going through the blocks, the purple ones, And so that's the appearance, apparence in French, how things look, but it's also speech and thought models because they can appear. So it's not sound just yet. Sound would be the pink blocks that you see, and they're starting to use those as well. It's pretty straightforward. It's just to indicate a sound in a program, and then we will come back to our blue blocks afterwards. So in this occasion, we are using the looks again, and we are creating that speech bubble.
Typically, when we give training, we get comments, but today, since we are meeting virtually, it's a little bit more difficult. But if you have questions, then input that in the chat and we'll try to answer those. So our character here is in blue, so to mean that it's selected. So we see the bat moving around, but it's not moving the same way it was in my presentation. So now we go over to coding. But in between the two here, the coding and the audio, we have costumes. Most of these characters come with costumes. So it's actually the positioning of the body. So you see here the wings upwards or downwards. So in my program, I can change the look of this bat. So we're going to go to looks, the purple blocks, and we can say, I pick a costume, I move it over here. So this one is D costume, and then I can select over here. After the D one, then I'll select the A costume. So it will switch from one to the other.
So the bat needs to be selected in your screen. It's blue, and then you notice it has 3 tabs on the left-hand corner of your interface, code, costumes, and sounds. So if you click on costumes, somebody was clicking on costumes before, and then you went into the looks, blocks, and purple ones. Most sprites come with about 4 different looks, different costumes that you could toggle in between. This is what Sonia just did in her blocks that you see on the screen in front of you.
So what we see here is the program. What I have left is to repeat the same types of actions. So we looked at looks, audio, and then the last one is controls. So I could have it repeat indefinitely, but we'll have it time defined for this time. So we're going to loop it over a certain time frame. Okay, so if I slide it over here, it understands that this is where it should go, and then it will extend to include all the other blocks. Craig, do you want to go ahead?
Sure, we just saw a forever loop in the orange color control blocks. We put the forever block, and then you see that the blocks link together. So it's kind of grayed out when it's not active when you're on your canvas, but when you drag them into this forever loop, you can package many things together inside other blocks. So it's super easy to assemble, and you can use a forever loop, and you can do it 4 times, 5 times if you want, whatever the quantity, but then with the orange control blocks.
So what's really nice here is then when we have a first script like this, once the students have succeeded in doing this, then we can give them some time to dig into some variants. I think we have over here, for instance, instead of having this motion, then we can look at another motion block. So what if I switch, the blue block for another blue one? So if I wanted to do that, to remove this blue block, I have to bring it over, split it from the other ones. Then this is the one I want to drag back to the side menu. Then I can pick another one. So let's say this blue block here, and then I place it back in this loop. So to remove any blocks, we just slide them over to the side menu. So then we invite students to go ahead and explore some options. So it's not necessarily to have systematic teaching of blocks and each of their features. We invite students to explore, based on a model, and then they can understand. So we're doing problem solving. I'm sure that a lot of you, the program is doing the same thing, and you're perhaps trying out other options. So this is how we do it.
So that you have to see the trial and error, the nature of it. We can just drag and drop the blocks in and out. It doesn't have to be exactly as a teacher has modeled it. It gives the learner a chance to change some blocks, to change some features. You've seen some of these drag blocks code back into the library, and then a little garbage can appeared. There's no worry, we're not deleting anything. There is a garbage can symbol. We're just dropping it back in the library to clean up our canvas a little bit. So it's definitely a trial and error thing, a lot of fun for the students.
So now to get back to the presentation, we have a screenshot here so that you're able to reproduce the same script if you'd like. We also have a description with the program in English. So this is what we do. This is a program, like I said, that allows us to do pretty simple things, but using as many blocks as possible and different ones. So now I'm going to move on to a second program. This one uses different blocks. It's very relevant for artistic expression because the character can be moved around and made different. So we have this pen extension or stylo extension. So again, I'm opening up the program, click to have it in full page and then run it. So the intent here is to use the pen and program the pen to produce a specific shape. So typically I ask students, I'm at the front of the classroom and I tell them what I should receive as far as commands to make a square shape. And then we do them on the computer.
Thank you. So you saw move the spy around. You saw the cat moving around. That's some coding. And there's a piece where you can add a pen to the avatar, to the sprite as it's moving around. So you can actually do a trail drawing. That pen needs to be added through the extensions, and you can find them at the bottom left hand corner of the interface. There's a little icon with a plus symbol, so you can add extensions. And just as a side note, things like the macro controller and Mickey, which is something like an invention kit, a console kit. These are other extensions you can add to Scratch, and that way you can move in this virtual simulation situation like we're doing online today to a more alive or a real actual simulation. You get to see the things happening on a separate device outside of Scratch.
So over here, we used to have 5 blocks, and to be able to use the pen, we need to go at the bottom and add an extension. This is where I have the pen extension, and I mentioned, as you can see, that there's other extensions that work very well. We have text to speech here. So if we want our character to speak, for instance, we also have other ones. I'll let you explore it on your own. You might know the Lego ones. This allows you to code with the Lego platform. So anyway, for now, we're going to focus on the pen extension. So I just click on it and there it appeared on the sidebar. So I have all the blocks and then the extension. So these are the blocks related to the pen.
Yes, So I was a little bit ahead of Sonia. I just want to say that the append feature, once you've added it, then it's a command you can add, pick the pen up, put the pen down, that kind of thing as your sprite is moving along. Putting the pen down will put ink on paper, so to speak, and picking the pen up will remove it from it.
So again, on slide number 8 of our presentation, we show you how to go about this. There's, of course, several ways to achieve the same thing, several solutions to the same question. So oftentimes students say, okay, well, go forward, then pivot. So I have blocks over here to show you that we can prepare scripts where we give the blocks to students, so they're pieces of the puzzle, and then students have to put them in the right order. So this is how we can introduce to script writing. We can have them sorted first and then students can use them. So students would say, okay, so move forward, pivot, move forward, pivot, etc. And then it's interesting to see that there's a repetition. So the loop, like we saw in the first script. So this is a math skill, right? Looking for patterns. So this is a nice learning tip right here. So we can have the same result with repeating in loop another program. So this is the link that we have here. So we often try to have script as effective and efficient as possible. So these two would do the same thing.
So you see two programs in the interface that Sonia is sharing with you. The one on the right hand side is building up to the point where the pen is actually going to drop. So we first programmed our sprite to do the motion, to move forward, to turn, and move forward, turn, and so on, to walk through it. So that might help the learner understand the motion that's taking place before we jump to a place where we're going to attach a pen. If we want to start at the end result and take the pen and draw something, that might be a big leap for somebody that was at the beginning. And so we give them blocks perhaps to start with. We let them piece them together so that they get familiar with the motion, comfortable with it, and then we build on that by continuing and so on.
So here I have the opportunity to show you that we don't have to start with the little flag. So here I use the spacebar as a launcher. So when I click on or press the spacebar, this should work actually, but a computer is not very smart. It's just powerful. This is what I tell my students. It just executed the whole thing so quickly that I didn't see that. So if your system is different, then it can be different. So we have here the wait block. So it's a nice way to tell students that we need to slow the computer down. And if now I execute the script, you saw the cat moving over. So we see that it's moving this way. So this is a tip. So know that you need to slow the computer down because it's very powerful so that we can see what's going on. We can have a specific time periods here, so 1 second waiting.
Just a quick troubleshooting issue that we can to relate to the beginners. The speed of the commands needs to be controlled. We can sting commands that will happen over another command if we don't put gaps in between. So sometimes we have to slow it down so that it doesn't come across as a stutter, as a flash, but the commands actually go sequence by sequence in a timely manner.
So we can have a specific shape here. And I also told you that we can make sure that this script can be reduced, boiled down to a loop. So over here, clicking on pen, we can use this. So to give all the commands we need to have the pen in writing mode, we need to pick a color. I picked the purple. and we need to give it a size to the line that's drawn. And if I want to see the pen moving, then what I do is erase the pen itself so that we don't see it. And then I center it again. So it gives it a position. And again, I do a lot of training math related. So we have the value here of this plan, and we can move around this way. So if I click on my flag here, there you go. So we see here on that Cartesian plane, the cat moving around. So this is interesting to see that this is what happened. If you have questions, like I said, you can write Christine. We may be able to answer some of them, but otherwise we just wanted to have a demo of what was possible. And this would be pretty much it for the demo. So now I'm going to move on to the second portion.
So just to summarize quickly, with the pen tool at the beginning of the program, Sonia put in and erase all at the beginning so that each time we click on the event when the flag is clicked and then we say go, we want to erase everything so that we start fresh with the fresh canvas, and then the pen goes down and starts all over again.
So here, drawing a square, is simple enough, but then we can ask our students to move on to another shape. So then we can differentiate. How should we draw a triangle? This might be easier than other shapes. So if students want to start with triangle, then that's good, but we can give them some challenges. I won't look at all of them with you today, but we can go quite far with the possibilities. We can really define the characteristics and the properties of the shapes. This is an achievement for the math component, and we can also do art. So same guidelines here on the English side. Okay, so here you have some special challenges. So there's possibilities. Scratch is really awesome. So using the Pythagorean theorem, then we can draw specific things also with the sine law. So for geometry, we can do a lot of art also, embed a lot of art into it.
We can answer some chat questions maybe later with the Q&A, but we will keep them in the parking lot.
So for the third program, well, actually, so first program with the bat, it's easy to introduce some concepts, the conversation. So we can move to languages, narratives, and on the math side, then I'm going to show you a very simple script for adding two numbers. So this script is, if our intent is only for the computer to do it for us, do the calculation, then that's not really interesting. It's going to be quicker with a calculator. But if we spin it differently, if we use this script to go a bit further, then the student can decide on the numbers and validate the answer, and then we can practice multiplication tables. And we also see that we can get more complex. So we can add 3 or 4 numbers.
personne va entrer le nombre 1 et il va falloir dire à l'ordinateur, quand la personne répond, la réponse, elle veut dire quoi? Alors, c'est vraiment les blocs bleus, puis on dit souvent que les élèves, quand on pose une question, on attend une réponse. Alors, on a les 2 blocs qui sont ici, qui sont utiles pour ça. Alors, ça, c'est la particularité pour poser des questions, donc que l'élève devienne, qu'il fasse l'interaction avec son jeu. Je te laisse aller, Craig.
Merci. So that here we're letting the programmer choose the dialogue. So when we use the purple block to say, we typed in a question and Sonia typed in, je vais t'aider à trouver des réponses. So that's the beginning of the process. So the person knows to indicate the number. They're being asked with the turquoise sensing block, what is the number that you, what is number 1 that you need to put in? It gets put in and everything gets sorted out. It gets accepted. We do it a second time. Once number 1 is inputted by the user, then what is number 2 gets asked with the next ask turquoise block, and so on. Things are being set with the variables that we put in, and you can see the little ovals fit inside. I think we mentioned that earlier, that the blocks nest together quite well. So they could be empty ovals, but I can drag and drop the answer oval inside to the variable one that you can see in there. And if you're playing at home, hopefully you're able to drag and drop these things, and that's the whole concept. You walk through the process, and then at the very end, we get a calculation happening. Again, a purple looks block and will say the answer, the solution. In this case, it's the sum of the number 1 and number 2.
Alors, je ne l'ai pas dit tout à l'heure, ou en tout cas, je suis passée rapidement, mais toutes les parties qui sont en blanc, on peut les modifier. Donc, on peut vraiment modifier la phrase. On peut modifier le temps aussi, si on veut que les élèves aient plus de temps pour lire. Donc, c'est ce qui m'a permis ici d'écrire la question. Craig a commencé à parler de la variable. Alors, j'ai utilisé la variable pour faire ça. Donc, il faut vraiment aller ici pour créer une variable. On lui donne un nom. Alors là, je vais mettre autre chose parce que le produit, je vais être sûre de ne pas me tromper avec les mêmes termes pour ne pas avoir le... Alors, on voit apparaître ici les variables que j'ai produites. Alors, je vais la supprimer. Alors, j'ai produit la variable du nombre 1, du nombre 2 et la somme. Donc, quand je disais, on a posé une question à l'utilisateur a répondu 34, le nombre qui est ici. Alors, je lui dis, ça correspond. Alors, mettre, c'est une égalité. La réponse de l'élève correspond au nombre 1. Je répète qu'on n'avait pas d'attendre que vous soyez en train de faire exactement le même problème en même temps. On fait plus l'analyse du programme. Ça fait partie d'une belle démarche aussi pour enseigner la programmation. Observer, essayer de comprendre ce qui se passe. On a fait la même chose ici. Donc, une deuxième question, ça correspond au deuxième nombre. Donc, ça, c'est la variable. Et j'ai créé la variable somme où je veux qu'on additionne nombre 1 et nombre 2. Ça me permet d'aller ici dans les opérateurs, donc les blocs verts qu'on n'a pas vus. Et ça peut nous donner beaucoup de possibilités au niveau de la programmation. Là, c'était une addition. Vous voyez que la forme n'est pas pareille. Hein? Ce n'est pas un bloc que je peux venir mettre en dessous ici, venir emboîter. C'est vraiment un bloc qui est plutôt ovale, donc je dois le mettre dans un espace qui est ovale. En rentrant par la gauche ici, on voit qu'il va l'accepter parce qu'il est en surbrillance. Alors, on a des phrases et j'ai fait un petit regroupé qui est un bloc qui nous dépanne beaucoup ici dans le vert. Il nous permet de mettre 2 informations. Alors, si je vous fais repartir le programme, vous allez voir, il affiche comme des caractères. Je lui dis affiche la somme est et il affiche par la suite la réponse de l'addition. Je pourrais aller un petit peu plus loin pour que l'élève rentre la réponse et valider. Si la réponse est bonne, je lui dis bravo. Sinon, je lui donne la bonne réponse, puis je l'amène à s'entraîner, par exemple, en addition. Alors ça peut être très, très intéressant. C'est les blocs un peu plus complexes qu'on prend, mais qui viennent rapidement. On appelle les blocs de conditions. Alors, les blocs de conditions, on les voit ici dans les oranges. Si ta réponse est bonne, bravo, on met un bloc. Si ta réponse n'est pas bonne, on peut afficher autre chose. Et là, ça donne vraiment une intention très, très intéressante au niveau du jeu pour l'élève. Je te laisse aller, Craig.
So that was the visual for what I was mentioning before, but you saw how Sonia created the variables. Those need to be created. because they don't exist, we'll name them for our purposes and what our needs are. And what was the last bit? Oh, the if-then command. So if at the end, if we want to give feedback, whether the end user, when they're typing in their answer, if it's correct or incorrect, we could use the control blocks, those orangey ones, and we can use if-then. So you had to drag those onto the screen. So if answer is correct, then feedback. We could put a speech bubble in there or congratulate the accurate answer, or we can indicate try again, something along those lines. So we can build on the program that way to give feedback instead of just being a calculator. It's a bit of a questioning thing where they can get feedback whether they're right or wrong.
Alors, je vais revenir à la présentation. Comme je le disais au début, notre intention de faire une addition de deux nombres n'est pas le programme le plus riche si on ne fait que ça. Ça pourrait se faire par une calculatrice, mais on peut voir un petit peu plus le potentiel avec des problèmes plus complexes et ça nous permet d'utiliser les blocs capteurs et réponses qui sont des blocs qu'on n'avait pas utilisés encore. On vous a fait la traduction aussi au niveau des possibilités, évidemment, en anglais. Je prendrai peut-être quelques minutes pour que Christine nous parle des questions qu'elle pense qu'on peut répondre maintenant. Et par la suite, on pourrait faire la présentation de comment on peut recueillir les programmes avec nos élèves. Alors, Christine, on laisserait à la parole.
Oui, on a une question pour la création de comptes. Alors, j'ai envoyé un petit courriel avec les liens. On peut créer un compte pour les profs et puis mettre ses élèves, inclure ses élèves dans une classe, ou si on peut créer un studio. Les renseignements vont être envoyés par courriel, mais aussi on peut les mettre dans nos fichiers. Alors, le studio, c'est intéressant parce que vous pouvez voir les projets qui sont partagés dans le studio des autres et rentrer dans le projet pour voir le progrès, la progression là, des programmes des élèves. On avait une autre question aussi pour donner un exemple de l'utilisation de Scratch dans les langues, au primaire et au secondaire. Je ne sais pas là, si on a des petits... des astuces là, à partager pour l'utilisation dans les langues.
Oui, on a, là, je cherche juste, je sais qu'on en a remis beaucoup. On va avoir à la fin de la présentation une fiche à la diapo 18, nos ressources. Alors, on a des exemples avec des Padlets où on a plein d'exemples qui sont faits à tous les niveaux, donc au niveau des langues. Et dans le fond, il y a 3 auto-formations complètes sur Scratch, tellement qu'on le trouve important dans le campus Récit. Il y en a une qui s'appelle Scratch pour tous, donc on touche toutes les matières. Il y en a une au niveau de la mathématique où on touche des programmes simples, beaucoup de programmes comme je viens de faire, particulièrement pour le primaire. Et il y a une Scratch en mathématiques plus avancée pour les notions de mathématiques au secondaire. Donc, tout ça dans les auto-formations, là, vous allez pouvoir aller sur le campus Récit, c'est gratuit, vous créez un compte et voir toutes les ressources sans problème. Alors, on vous donnera des exemples. J'ai cru voir aussi quelqu'un qui parlait, est-ce qu'on peut faire des choses avec la musique? Alors, oui, la musique, entre autres, au niveau des sons, les jeunes pourraient enregistrer leurs propres sons. Alors, ils pourraient avoir du travail au niveau de l'édition. On a vraiment à utiliser le petit micro. Donc, c'est tout à fait possible. Et en plus de ça, il y a, attendez un petit peu, si je reviens ici, en plus de ça, dans l'extension, il y a une extension spécifique à la musique. Alors, il y a des choses qui sont intéressantes à explorer par rapport à ça.
So Sonia just showed the music extension. One of the questions in the chat was, is it possible to use ScratchEd Music? Absolutely. There's sounds that are possible. There's a bank of sounds that students can employ in sequence. And there's also recording. They could record their own voice. They could make music and add it into it. And so there are lots of possibilities for music for sure.
Est-ce qu'il y avait d'autres questions, Christine?
Non, c'est beau pour l'instant.
OK. OK. Alors, dans le fond, on vous donnera le lien de partage au niveau, comme je dis, il y en a plusieurs au niveau des ressources. Une des choses qu'on a remarqué depuis quelques mois, c'est que là, les profs travaillent à distance. Donc, si on est sur un ordinateur, on peut enregistrer un programme directement sur un ordinateur, mais ce que plusieurs enseignants utilisent actuellement, c'est qu'ils utilisent leur environnement numérique d'apprentissage, donc que ce soit avec du Classroom, avec du CISA, Classe Dojo ou n'importe. Et on peut demander aux jeunes, dans le fond, de copier le lien de son programme dans un formulaire. Alors, on a mis ici un formulaire en français et en anglais pour ceux qui utilisent plus la suite Google ou ceux qui utilisent davantage la suite de Microsoft. Alors, on demande à l'élève de mettre son nom et de coller son lien. Fait que comme ça, on peut avoir dans un fichier, dans un tableur, tous les programmes de nos élèves. Alors, c'est une façon de le présenter parce qu'on n'a pas de tableau de bord en temps direct qui travaille comme d'autres outils, mais ces formulaires-là, vous pouvez, dans le fond, quand vous l'ouvrez, ça va forcer une copie pour s'assurer que vous ayez la ressource dans vos documents à vous, selon la suite que vous préférez. Donc, c'est une façon d'utiliser, de récupérer les programmes de vos élèves.
So for saving programs, we were talking about saving them to the computer that you're working on. And with our reality of working from a distance now with our remote learners, it's fully integratable with Google Forms and Microsoft Office 365, so that our classrooms there, we can save resources. So when students make a Scratch program, they can connect it directly to your Google Classroom or to your Office classroom.
Donc, il nous reste quelques minutes pour expliquer un peu c'est quoi la communauté de pratique des Scratch Educators Meetup. Donc, le programme de Scratch a été développé par le MIT, Massachusetts Institute for Technology. Donc, ils ont développé la programmation Scratch. Puis ensuite, Harvard University ont développé la partie pour on l'appelle Educators. Donc, pour les enseignants, il y a beaucoup de ressources qui ont été développées pour l'enseignement avec Scratch. Et ils ont aussi développé une communauté de pratique autour de Scratch. Donc, c'est vraiment une structure de développement professionnel, parce qu'on ne se le cachera pas, c'est sûr qu'on manque beaucoup de temps pour aller chercher notre développement professionnel. Souvent, c'est des ateliers comme aujourd'hui d'une heure où vous apprenez beaucoup de choses, il n'y a pas beaucoup de temps pour explorer, ça se termine là. Bien honnêtement, la recherche le démontre, il n'y a pas beaucoup d'impact sur la pratique quand c'est du développement professionnel très rapide. Donc, la structure qu'on promouvoit, c'est vraiment de créer une communauté de pratique autour de Scratch. Alors, pour le moment, c'est une fois par mois. On se rejoint virtuellement et on est plusieurs enseignants et CP. On se rencontre en ligne et on discute de Scratch. Donc, on réseaute ensemble, on planifie des activités, on partage ce qu'on fait en classe. On apprend ensemble. Si jamais vous voulez brancher des périphériques, des makey-makey, toutes sortes de possibilités avec Scratch. Et on partage nos réflexions. Donc, vous ressortez d'un meet-up avec une banque de ressources, avec des amis scratcheux, d'autres passionnés, que vous soyez débutant, intermédiaire, avancé. C'est un peu comme un Edcamp autour de Scratch. Donc, c'est vraiment du développement professionnel continu. So, for in English, Scratch was developed by MIT, the Massachusetts Institute for Technology. However, Harvard University developed the educator part of Scratch. So lots of resources and tools for teachers. A few years ago, they developed this awesome community of practice called Scratch Educator Meetups. So what they are actually, we all get together virtually online. For now, it's once a month. We'll see if we change the frequency, maybe because there's a lot of interest. And we discuss. So for about an hour and a half, it's like an Edcamp around Scratch. So you're going to network with other teachers or consultants. We're going to share what's being done in classes. We'll share ideas of projects. We'll also explore different themes. For example, if you want extensions or makey-makeys with Scratch, we could walk you through that, or other teachers could discuss what's being done, and we'll reflect and we'll share. So you leave a Scratch Meetup with tons of resources. And like I was saying in French, research shows that brief one-time, 1 hour PD has little impact on practices. Like, it's ideal because we don't have a lot of time for PD. However, that's why we created this community of practice with Scratch. So it's really a continuous PD structure for everyone. And could you just go to the next slide, please? So what it looks like, I'll keep going in English. What it looks like, so we're building this community of practice. You'll get to know, usually we're about 30 to 50 educators that we divide in different breakout rooms. So we'll get to know each other. Then we establish themes together. So we're not gonna impose the themes. It's really, we'll make a Padlet all together and we'll look at what's the interest tonight, what do we wanna discuss? And then we'll break out in smaller rooms and we'll discuss the themes. After that, we really like to share and know what went on in the other breakout rooms. So we always have a collaboration document where we share, and then people open their cameras and say what they thought or what were their main takeaways. Alors pour en français, un meetup dure environ 1h30. En quoi ça consiste? Il y a vraiment 4 étapes. Donc, on crée une communauté de pratique. On est environ 30 à 50 enseignants ou CP en virtuel. Donc, on apprend un peu à se connaître. C'est sûr qu'à chaque mois, il y a les mêmes membres qui reviennent. Il y en a toujours des nouveaux, et des anciens. C'est à la Edcamp, comme je mentionnais tout à l'heure. Donc, on crée un Padlet, puis on n'impose pas de thème aux rencontres. Donc, c'est vraiment les participants qui arrivent, puis qui décident, ce soir, j'aimerais vraiment apprendre à brancher mon Makey avec Scratch, ou qu'est-ce que je pourrais faire en langue en classe. Donc, en fait, lors du dernier Meetup, il y avait beaucoup d'enseignants en langue et des CP, donc on a discuté des possibilités. Ensuite, selon les thèmes qui émergent du Padlet, on va créer des sous-groupes, et on partage en sous-groupe. On revient toujours en grand groupe et on partage ce qui a été fait dans tous les sous-groupes. Donc, il y a énormément d'informations, de partage de projets et de collaboration. Puis, à la fin de la rencontre, vous repartez avec le document collaboratif, donc beaucoup de liens vers des projets et toutes les réflexions qui ont eu lieu. Notre prochain Meetup, c'est le 27 novembre. Vous pouvez vous enregistrer dès l'instant si ça vous intéresse parce que les places sont limitées à 50. Donc, dépêchez-vous parce qu'elles se remplissent quand même assez rapidement. Lorsque vous aurez accès à la présentation ou sinon dans le clavardage, cliquez sur participer et ça va vous diriger vers la page des ScratchEd Meetups. So our next ScratchEd Meetup is actually Friday, November 27th. If ever you are interested, hurry up to register. Someone will add that in the chat, or you could also find the button in our presentation. Places are limited to 50 teachers, and quite honestly, they fill up very quickly. So if you're interested, hurry and press that button. So we look forward to seeing you on November 27th.
Alors, comme je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, il existe 3 auto-formations sur le site du campus Rici ou qui peuvent vous permettre d'avancer. C'est sûr qu'en 1 heure, on ne fait pas toutes les connaissances au niveau du Scratch. Aujourd'hui, notre souhait primordial au départ, c'était de faire un Scratch Meetup, donc d'appliquer, mais lorsqu'on nous a parlé du nombre de personnes, on a choisi de faire une présentation un peu plus traditionnelle et de vous présenter le Scratch Meetup puis de vous inviter à vous joindre à nous le 27 novembre ou à une date ultérieure si vous êtes intéressé. Je vous ai dit qu'il existait plusieurs ressources. Alors, si vous cliquez ici sur la fiche de ressources, il y en a beaucoup en français et en anglais. Donc, vous pourrez faire le tour des ressources pour avoir des exemples en langue, en musique, etc. Et on terminerait la présentation, dans le fond, en vous disant que, pardon, aujourd'hui, je n'ai pas changé le bon ordinateur. Alors, vous pouvez obtenir dès aujourd'hui un badge de participation pour avoir participé à notre atelier, alors de journée du numérique en éducation. Alors, lorsque vous allez en cliquant sur le lien ici, on va vous demander de nous donner une information que vous avez retenue. Ça va être donc le devoir à faire, la tâche à faire, et vous recevrez par la suite dans le campus Rici vos badges. C'est sûr que pour recevoir le badge, on vous demande de vous créer un compte. Vous pouvez prendre votre adresse professionnelle ou personnelle à votre choix et ça vous permettra, dans le fond, comme je dis, les instructions, c'est juste de nous donner une information de quelque chose que vous avez appris aujourd'hui. Craig?
Oui, est-ce qu'on peut reculer au diapo précédent, s'il vous plaît? So Sonia was just mentioning that there are a lot of resources for Scratch out there. These are some that we've compiled and made available for you, and so they're available in French and in English. So that all of our resources are in there. Et prochaine diapo. And there is a badging system available with Campus Récit, and the formation that you have participated in today makes you eligible for this. So if you'd like to receive your badge for today's training, it's available. You will have to use your professional email address to create an account, and then you'd be able to collect this badge for your participation today.
Alors, on terminerait en vous disant merci. Merci d'avoir passé cette heure avec nous. Merci d'avoir participé à la journée du numérique en éducation. Merci de partager votre développement professionnel. Si vous avez le goût qu'on donne des formations à vos collègues, bien, vous pouvez vous adresser pour les commissions scolaires francophones à l'équipe du récit MST dont je fais partie. Et si vous souhaitez avoir une présentation en anglais, c'est les gens de Learn qui vont donner les formations. Alors, on est des gens libérés de nos tâches d'enseignement pour faire la formation. C'est gratuit, on se déplace ou on les fait en virtuel comme on le fait depuis quelques mois. Alors, on vous invite à nous écrire pour d'autres questions et on essaiera du mieux possible de vous fournir les réponses à vos questions et de vous accompagner dans vos milieux.
So we just want to thank you for joining us today. Our contact information is throughout the presentation that you have access to. So if you want to contact any of us, feel free to do so. If you want to continue this PD journey with us, we'd be happy to hear from you. So you can contact us through the presentation and the links that we've provided. Thank you.
Merci et bonne prochaine présentation. Bonne fin de journée.